If you're sending out emails each week, you might be wondering what all your data means or how you can make it better. We're talking about the email metrics you want to keep your eye on every month, including some industry standards and quick tips for improving your metrics.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9 to 5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. Today, we're doing a deep dive into email metrics. And I'm going to assume that if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have a good idea of what a lot of these email metrics are. You know what an open rate is, you know what a click rate is, all those kinds of things. So I'm not going to give you the kindergarten level of this. I am going to go over some of the general definitions, but I'm going to take a deeper dive. We're going to be looking at the averages for these. We're going to be looking at some ways that these metrics might have changed over time. For instance, open rates have become more inflated with time and technology, and we'll talk about that and what that means for you. I'll also give you some tips for how you can improve these metrics and a few cautionary tales to keep in mind. So let's jump right in. The first kind of group I want to look at is open rates and click rates. An open rate is the percentage of people who have opened your email. On average, you've probably heard this before, you will see about a 25 to a 35% open rate. We're talking specifically about weekly emails here. So we're not talking about emails inside of a welcome sequence. You're going to see different click rates for that. And I have a podcast coming up in the next couple of months where I'm going to talk about metrics with welcome sequences. But in this episode, particularly, we're talking about weekly emails. Just should put that out there first. 25 to 35%. However, as I mentioned, open rates have become more inflated with time. And I'm not going to get into all of the tech there and everything. I'm also not familiar with all of the tech that causes this inflation. But what you just need to know is that there are pieces of technology nowadays that are pre-scanning our emails, whether that be for AI summaries, which I imagine will become much more popular in the future. And we're going to see a lot more of this inflation with the open rate, but also pre-scanning emails for viruses and security reasons. And that might be seen more inside of different companies. You might have experienced higher click rates, or rather, you might have experienced higher open rates than that, as your norm. A lot of my clients see about a 40% plus average open rate. With your open rate, let's talk about why it matters. Obviously, if someone is not opening your email, then they can't click it, so they can't learn from you. So open rates are important. We're not saying throw out the open rates, don't care about them. But what we are saying is to take them with a grain of salt. I think the best piece of advice here is instead of trying to stick it I have to have this percentage of open rate because we just don't know what the inflation is there. I want you to try to think, okay, if I'm dipping obviously below the 25% or even dipping a little bit below the 35%, then I might need to do some addressing here about the engagement of my audience. But also, just in general, if you see a big change in your open rate, then that should signal to you that either you need to look at something you did great or you need to look at something that you're doing wrong, quote unquote, wrong, right? A tip here for improving open rates. So if you are seeing your open rates start to dip, something you want to make sure is that you have a really good welcome sequence. We like to correlate a lot of times our open rates to our subject lines, and our subject lines definitely play a role in our open rates. However, what I have seen as a bigger determiner of a strong open rate is a really good welcome sequence, because subscribers who go through welcome sequences come out more engaged subscribers, and more engaged subscribers open our emails. It's as simple as that. Let's move into the click rates. So the click rate is the percentage of people who have clicked on a link in an email. On average, you might see a 2 to 5% click rate. I will say that depending on the type of industry that you're in, you might see a click rate that's a little bit lower than that on average. And doesn't signal complete danger, but if you're starting to see you drift pretty far from that 2%, definitely something that we need to work on. Klaviyo has reported that on average, For e-commerce spaces, they see about a 1.47% click rate. And I would say that is pretty average for some of the clients that I work with who are in the e-commerce space. Of course, that does depend on the type of email that you're sending out. So my assumption when they're saying e-commerce industries is a 1.4% average is like when you're selling those e-commerce products inside of your emails. Whenever you're talking about a blog post though, or maybe you're giving away a freebie or you're putting in a poll, then yeah, your click rate's probably going to be a little bit higher. But in general, when we're selling something, we typically do see a lower click rate unless your audience just really loves this offer, which obviously is great. And it's where we all want to be. And so then we probably do see a higher click rate. Why does your click rate matter? Obviously, clicks lead to conversions. We can't sell something if our audience isn't clicking on it. They definitely could go and search it up on their own. I've done that plenty of times, but in general, clicks leads to conversions. Clicks also tell you what your audience is interested in. So when you do see your click rates go up, or you do see a higher click rate than average on an email, go in and look at that and determine what about this email do I think increase that click rate, and take note of that. And obviously, clicks show engagement. Engaged lists are lists that buy. So we do want to, again, pay attention to those clicks so that we can do more of what our subscribers are showing they're interested in. A tip here, if you do see your click rate starting to drop, is to include polls or to send out a survey to your audience to get to know them more. We can ask questions again about what they're interested in, what they might be struggling with right now, things that are going on in their life, in their business, whatever type of audience that you're serving. And then you can create content around those things that they're probably more likely to be interested in because they're telling you, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm struggling with. And if you can show up with some piece of information or some sort of solution to that, then they're more likely to be gung-ho about it. Some other general tips for open rates and click rates are to try out things like A/B testing. Not all email platforms do allow A/B testing. I would say most of them do, unless you're Flowdesk, but maybe they'll get on that soon. But A/B testing is where you put in like two different subject lines and you send that out so you can see if that impacts your open rate or your click rate. A/B testing, you can also do that by sending out like two totally separate emails. Obviously, that takes a little bit more like time commitment to write out two emails, kind of maybe adjust some different things. You can do it that way, or you could just do the exact same email, send them out separately with different open and click rates. That could be like a workaround for Flowdesk. But then you'd have to worry about the segmentation, all that. Make sure you're not double dipping so people aren't getting like two emails. Anywho, most platforms, though, make A/B testing pretty easy these days. Another thing to kind of consider here is segmentation. Segmenting your list is a really great way to make sure that you're sending out information to people that they actually want to be reading, they actually want to be receiving info about, especially if you have a list where you have varying different types of people on it, whether that be like they're in totally different industries, whether that be that they have totally different struggles or interests. Segmenting them so that you know, I'm going to send this to this person because I know that's what they're struggling with, rather than sending it to your whole list knowing that some people are not going to be interested. A lot of my clients are in the TPT space, and so they might have several grade levels that they're sending out emails to. They might also have several content areas that they're sending out emails to. So taking note, I probably don't want to send a third grade resource to fifth grade teachers. So excluding those people, that's beneficial for everyone involved. It's beneficial for the third grade teachers who are getting it. I can see better what the actual open and click rate is because I'm sending it to the right audience. It's also great for my fifth grade teachers because I'm not annoying them with emails that they don't need and they don't want. Another metric to look at is your conversion or your conversion rate. So the conversion rate is the percentage of people who bought via your email. And when we talk about averages here, it can be really hard to get an average because it really does vary based on the industry that you're in or the pricing of your offer. So for example, most of my services are done for you services. They cost at least, $1,000. And so I'm going to see a lower conversion rate when I'm talking about my services because I'm asking people to make a much bigger investment than a $5 product or a $20 product. That's something to kind of keep in mind. When we look at conversion rates, some averages that we do have, Klaviyo, for instance, has reported that across e-commerce spaces, they see about a 0.09% conversion. And typically with launches, we see about a 1% conversion. An average doesn't mean everyone is experiencing that. That's just the average. I have worked with plenty of clients who see a 5%, a 7%, a 10% conversion on their launch. And I don't think that that's like totally abnormal either. But when we're looking at everyone, right, we see an average of 1% for most launches. Why does it matter? Ultimately, we want subscribers to become buyers, right? That's the whole point. Whenever we're marketing is to move people to becoming buyers. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. Melanie and I just recorded a 3-part series on the marketing funnel. And I believe the first episode comes out next week where we talk about the top of funnel. But we'll actually walk you through like different strategies you can use to take someone from brand new to you to a buyer. But we have to remember it is a funnel. If I have 100 people that come on my list and I'm only expecting 1% of those people to convert, what's like what 1%, right? Out of 100. So it is really important that we do continuously build on our list, or at least strive to create a really engaged list, because that's when we do see that higher conversion percentage. So if I do maybe see a 10% conversion when I send out emails out of 100 people, but still that's 10 people, right? If I have 100 people on my list. So the more people we have to pull from, the more engaged they are, the higher that conversion is hopefully going to be. One tip here with conversions is that typically with our one-off sales emails, we're going to see lower conversions. So if you're looking for like a cash injection in your business, or you really want to ramp up getting sales on a product, an offer, anything else that you're selling in your business, consider going outside of just those one-time emails, doing an actual promotional period or a launch, creating a welcome sequence where you are selling those offers, and also writing things like abandoned cart sequences. Typically, those more dedicated sequences where we're really delving into that product see higher conversions. Let's move into subscribes and unsubscribes. This is another metric that I definitely recommend tracking. I do write down my subscribers and unsubscribers every month. If you were like, I don't really need to write that down, I think it's at least a good thing to look at and note when you're going into your email subscriber. So let's start with the subscribers. Obviously, this is how many people we have on our list, particularly how many people we have joining our list. So we're looking at like the rate, like how many subscribers did I have this month or have this week? And again, there is no average here. The average is going to be very different based on various different factors, such as how often you promote your list, if you have any ads running, how much visibility you have. The best thing to look at here when you are monitoring your subscribers every single month is a big change. So if you see a huge change in how many people you got, you're like, oh my gosh, I got like 50 more people this month or 100 more people this month than I normally get, then ask yourself, what did I do differently? Did I promote something differently? Did I get on a podcast that seems to be really blowing up? Look for that place that might have impacted something for the better. And then, of course, also if you see a dip, then you want to look at why that might have happened too. Did you not do as many visibility strategies? Did you not talk about your offer as much? Did you not get on Instagram this month? Like, where was it that could have caused that negative impact? Of course, when we're talking about why subscribers matter, is subscribers could potentially become buyers. We need to constantly bring or consistently bring new people into our space because, like I talked about when we look at the marketing funnel, not every subscriber, not every person in our audience is going to become a buyer. One tip here is to talk about your list more. Very rarely do I get on Instagram or do I get on Threads and I see people talking about their list. That could mean freebies, that could mean promoting free offers like a webinar or a challenge, or even just talking about a newsletter they have coming out the next day. And I'm totally guilty of this. I've been having to work really hard lately to try to talk about my freebies more. But the more we talk about our list, the more we talk about those freebies, the more subscribers that we're going to see. The cautionary tale here with subscribers is that fast growth isn't always the best growth. And I think that's kind of a lie that we've been told a lot of times is like, you can join this thing and you're going to get 1,000 new subscribers. And we're like, yeah, that's amazing. I love that idea. I love a good bundle. I love a good summit. I would love to grow my list fast. However, when we have those fast growth periods, we need to make sure we really, really have systems in place to nurture those new leads. If you're going on to a summit or if you're hosting a bundle with someone and you don't have a really solid welcome sequence that is bringing those people in and trying to stand out from all the other people in that bundle and that summit that they also signed up for their lists, you might just be bringing a lot of cold leads onto your list. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. You could warm them up over time when you have that welcome sequence, or maybe as they get more and more emails from you. Or again, you could just end up with a lot of cold people on your list. So fast growth is not always the best growth. You really got to make sure you're strategic about how you grow. Okay, let's talk about unsubscribes. This is how many people have decided to leave your list. There, again, is no average here. The average is going to be different based on a lot of different factors. What we really want to look at with this metric is big changes. So, unsubscribers aren't a bad thing. We're going to lose people over time. We all unsubscribe from emails, and we don't want people hanging out on our email list that actually are wrong fit subscribers for us. So, it's actually a good thing that they bail out. However, if we do see that a particular email has lost a substantial amount of subscribers, that isn't normal for us. So, if like for me, I probably lose, I would say most emails I don't lose a subscriber, but if I do, it's not any more than like two or three. But again, I don't have like a huge list of like thousands of people. Whereas I do have clients who have like tens of thousands of people on their list. They're on average losing like hundreds to 200s every time that they're sending out stuff. And that's normal for them. Like that's not uncommon. You don't need to totally freak out about that number. Again, if it's normal for you, obviously, if we can keep people engaged on our list, great. But if they're not the right fit and they need to excuse themselves, also a good thing. Let's say my average is I lose 100 people every time I send out an email. And then the next time I send out an email, I lose 300 people or 200 people, and it's doubled. That's something I need to look into. What went wrong here that just really did not resonate with these people? And that might be something I need to evaluate. So, one tip with your unsubscribers is definitely make sure that you're cleaning out your list regularly. I do have a list cleaning swipe file with some tech videos too for ConvertKit, now called Kit, and Flowdesk if you want to check that out. But cleaning your list regularly can help just get rid of those wrong fit people now rather than waiting until they unsubscribe. The last thing with unsubscribers is kind of the cautionary tale here, and that is don't keep emailing your list if you have a lot of cold people on it. So if you do notice that your stats are starting to get a little bit stale, and when you go into that like cold subscriber section inside of your email provider, if you're seeing a lot of people in there, it's really important that you clean those instead of continuing to send it to them, because that can actually end up hurting your domain reputation, which makes you more likely to end up in the spam folder. So again, that's why it's a good thing that people who are not engaged in our list or not interested do excuse themselves, because if not, we need to get rid of them so that they don't impact our engagement and they don't impact our reputation. Right, let's look at the last metric, which is replies. Now, I will be honest and say I personally don't track the amount of replies that I get in my email metrics each month, but I think it's a good thing to check in with yourself. Like, ask yourself, hey, did I get any replies this month? What did that look like for me? The replies are the number or the percent, depending on how you want to kind of track that metric if you decide to track it, of people who reply to your emails. I will say, if you do a Google search of this, you will see that they say the average is like 1 to 6% of emails get replies. But if you're not seeing that, I don't want you to get bummed. I want to be like, oh my God, I'm definitely not getting 1 to 6% of people replying to my emails. You have to remember that replies are the biggest ask from our audience. I want you to think, how often do you reply to people's emails? For me, it's not super common. I might reply to a few emails every single month. And the people that I am replying to are people that I have an established relationship with. So they're people that I've maybe talked before in the DMs, or maybe I have attended a workshop of theirs, or I've grabbed a freebie from them, or whatever the case might be. Like I've already in my head built a relationship with this person, even if I've never met them in person or like actually really chatted with them before. I feel like I know them. I feel like I know their business pretty well. So that is why it's so important that we do cultivate a really good engagement and a really good community, because the more our audience feels like they know us and they feel like they trust us, then the more likely they are to reply to things. Because again, it's a pretty big ask. It's kind of like DMing someone on Instagram, although I would say for me personally, at least, DMing someone feels a lot more comfortable than replying to an email, because I don't know, DMs, I feel like it's kind of normal to DM people on Instagram. But it is like that extent, right? Like we're going from just watching someone's story to maybe like liking someone's post or commenting on someone's post to like actually reaching out individually to them. That does take an increased level of comfortability there. And it's the same for our email list. Our subscribers are going to have to feel pretty comfortable to reach out to us and to reply. that goes with the why it matters too. Replies are one of the best ways that we can connect with our community. It's great for engagement. It's great for fostering relationships. It's great for getting to know our audience. And so replies do matter. But again, if you're feeling bummed because you're like, I don't usually get replies on my emails. Okay, then here's what I want you to do. The first thing is I want you to start by asking really simple questions, like yes or no questions or fun questions. I think sometimes we get caught up in like, well, you're writing this lengthy email about, I don't know, the importance of building a website and making sure that your website security is amazing. And at the very end, we're like, being some question like, how do you feel about website security? And I'm like, I probably wouldn't reply to an email like that or a question like that. But at the end of the email, that like totally just go off topic and I'm like, tell me a bit about your week, or have you been having a good week? Yes or no? Let me know. Or send an emoji back with how you feel about your website right now. A really easy way for them to connect. So maybe it's for them responding with one word or with an emoji or with like a number. Someone sent out a really great email recently that I was like, this is lovely. I love this. And she asked people to reply with like one of 4 options. She was like, you might be feeling like this right now. Send me one of these back, one of these little pre-typed out replies, and I will send you a little goodie. And so I literally just like copied and pasted the thing and I put it into the reply. And then we ended up chatting like one little back and forth with each other. But she actually took the time to go on. She looked at my Instagram and she was like, hey, I see that you're a copywriter. Like, my husband used to be, or my husband is an English teacher, and we had like a little connection there. And so therefore it built that relationship a little bit more. Reeling it back in, make it really easy for people to reply to you. Start by asking really simple questions. You could also make it even easier by starting with polls. A lot of email providers nowadays include polls. And so this is just kind of like the next step between just opening and clicking to replying. It's building that little bit of trust and comfortability there of interacting with your email without actually having to hit that reply button. And it's still a great way to build engagement. So that's a lot of metrics that we've talked about today. We've talked about open rates and click rates and conversions and subscribes and unsubscribes and replies. And yes, I do recommend actually looking at these things every single month. I know that that might feel like a lot, but I promise it's going to make a difference when you actually are taking 20 minutes, 30 minutes to check in on these things each month and see where the changes are over time, because that's what's going to help you actually make improvements. If you need a place to put these metrics, I do have a free Airtable email data tracking sheet, and I'll put that in the show notes so you can grab that. I also want to let you know that in late January, possibly early February, depending on when I get everything together, I have a brand new service coming called the Copy Huddle, and I'm really excited about this. If you've been wanting help with your email marketing, if you've been wanting to get help dissecting your email data, if you want support from a copywriter, but maybe you don't want to completely pass off your copy or you're in search of a more affordable option, the Copy Huddle is going to be the place for you. You get access to me to ask questions, to my background, my experience, my expertise. So you get all of the great things you would get on a copywriting retainer, except you're going to be doing the copywriting yourself. We're just going to team up together to help you tackle it. So more information about that coming soon. I can't wait to share more about that. Thanks so much for joining the conversation today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on email marketing, launch copy, or content planning, head to therelevantcollective.com. I'll meet you back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.